The Five Nights at Freddy's movie is finally out after almost a decade of development hell. It saw tons of directors going in and out like it was going out of style. They had Chris Columbus in there. I'm reading here that he directed a movie about a little boy who's a TERF or something. For context, the movie was announced before this clip.
Was that the part?
Existed and was back when the games were coming out like 3 times a year. The movie's broken box office records, but also faced a lot of derision in the time since it came out. So, as someone who's been semi-casually following the series, this review is like someone who's familiar with all the shit, but like ultimately what I care about is whether it's actually a good movie or not, and it's not good. It's not good, man. Hey, it's Winnie, like a horse, and I'm talking about the FNAF movie. Part 1. What's pacing? The whole movie is about 25 minutes too long for its own good, which feels slightly insane to say about a movie that's like an hour and 45. It's an hour and 45 that feels like 2.5. The movie of it all doesn't really start till about halfway through. The introductory scare scene with the saw trap, you know, the saw trap that's not really explained and seems entirely pointless. It's not well done. I literally forgot about the scene after my first watch and was like, I wonder why there isn't an opening scare, as is typical of your crowd-pleasing horror movie. Like, I literally forgot the scene existed. It had such little impact on me. I recently found out that the security guard in that opening was supposed to be Markiplier. Which, I mean, it would have been great, but it would have been horrible. It would have been so fucking distracting that it might have actually made me remember it. The beginning, in general, is a lot of nothing. It's just, there's a lot of establishing things that don't really need to be established. They take forever to set up the custody battle, which ultimately has very little payoff in the movie. They also take entirely too long to establish all the fantasy mechanics. There's this long dialogue sequence solely to set up the dream memory mechanics that, you know, it could literally be a single image. Like change the name of the book to accessing repressed memories through dreams or something. You got the whole dialogue exchange with, like, changing a prop. But, no, I guess you can't put in a cheeky little fan reference to Dream Theory. You know the thing? Dream Theory, the one everyone loved so much you had to change the whole canon around. This, in general, is, like, part of the whole thing with a lot of movies nowadays, where the amount of Easter eggs and fandom references they throw into stuff is exhausting. Like, it betrays a lack of confidence in what you're making, that you have to keep throwing in all these little Easter eggs and references to give the people watching a dopamine hit. Another similar scene is when the teacher, social worker, she goes on and on about child psychology and pictures, and, you know, we get it. Pictures are psychologically important to kids. Like that whole monologue could have been replaced by, like, an insert shot of 2 of the animatronics fixated on the picture wall or something. Both of these monologues sound exactly like something out of one of the FNAF books, which, like, isn't a good thing, but it makes sense. Like, yeah, this is what Scott Cawthon would write. Man hasn't written anything good in his life, and that is including the Pizza Simulator monologue. It's got good lines here and there, don't get me wrong, but it's got more endings than Evangelion. It's got more endings than Return of the King. It's got more endings than the Toy Story franchise. I still got it. Like, I get it. This movie is for babies, and babies are idiots. But babies are idiots with short attention spans. So if your explanation is a lecture, they are just going to tune out. I do not believe a 6-year-old could possibly make it through this movie without falling asleep or breaking something. No, I don't know what people mean. You know, this movie it's actually pretty watchable. You know, it's fairly engaging. Another thing that absolutely fucking murders the pacing is that about 30% of the movie is the same dream sequence. Things do progress occasionally in these segments, but for every moment that actually plays into the movie, there's another repetition of the dream sequence that doesn't. Like, ultimately, until the last 40 minutes, it's just a slow movie about a sleepy guy with PTSD. Oh me, oh me, oh my. All these nights with Fetty Fazbora making me sleepy. This movie made me sleepy. Part 2, Story and Characters. The story does not directly follow from the games or the books, which is not a criticism. He spring trap on my Freddle until he jump scare on my mini arena until I Fazgoo. But there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense unless you already know the games, which is kind of the worst of both worlds. Matthew Lillard is criminally underused, and when they do use him, it doesn't make much sense. Like, okay, so he's hiding as the career counselor, sure, and he's sending people to work at Freddy's so he can put them in the saw trap and milk their soul juice.
She's milking me!
But his motives are not touched on at all. Like, the soul juice, the remnant, I pulled that out of my ass. And it's like, they weren't really established until several games in anyway, so that's fine, I guess. I mean, you don't have to use the motive from the games. I mean, like, you could have any motive. Yeah, I mean, I know when I kill people, it's for the raw sexual thrill, but at least establish it? Okay, so, and he recognizes Mike as his victim's brother by the last name. So, you know, wouldn't he think, like, ah, shit, this guy's onto me, I gotta get him quick. Like, his plan is gobbledygook. Like, okay, sure. So, he wants Abby to be Springlocked so that he gets another minion. But, like, to what end? It's all very underpants gnomes. Josh Hutcherson does well with what he's given, I suppose. But really, all he's given is being paranoid and disheveled and violently jolting away. It's kind of bizarre that he's protective of children to a degree that he'd beat their snot out of some guy in the mall for being slightly too rough with his own son. But he's also single-minded enough about the Garrett thing that he would give up his sister to the ghost monsters. So, like, with his paranoia about child abduction, if this movie was set in the modern day, Mike would be, like, fully Pizzagate Q-pilled, right? Like, his arc is about not trying to change the past, hence all the goddamn dreams, and moving forward with Abby, but his character really doesn't track in that sense. Instead of adding that weird character moment, you could easily just say that when he said he'd give the animatronics anything at the very beginning of the movie, they took that literally. When he got scratched in his dream, and it was a real scratch, I said, wait, did I accidentally put on Fetty Cougar instead of Fetty Fazbor? I'm funny. Tell me I'm funny. One thing that bugged me about the dreams is I do not understand why they didn't have the abduction take place at Freddy's. They had a non-abandoned Freddy's set. They filmed all those tapes in it. It'd give Mike a much more direct tie to Freddy's, and it'd give us more of the, you know, titular location that a lot of people are there to see. The frequent dreams wouldn't just serve as a reminder over and over again about the main guy's trauma, but they'd also give us, like, a nice cool contrast for, like, Freddy's at its prime versus Freddy's now, so you could see the decay. Like, it do more than one thing. You want things in your movie to do more than one thing. That's a big part of the problem with the movie. It feels like most scenes are one thing. Like, I guess it's better than a lot of shitty adaptations where things will be in there for no reason or just because other movies have them. And besides the Saw Trap, which definitely feels like the latter, I don't really see anything like that. But when everything in your movie exists for one thing, it feels so manufactured and artificial. Like, ideally, when you write a setup in a script, it serves another function in the moment, so when it gets paid off, it's more of a surprise. Like, if you make it a joke, or, like, if you make the setup to this thing, a payoff to another thing. You aren't spending the entire time you're watching the scene going, okay, this is setup, okay, this is setup, okay, this is setup. There were points in the movie where it felt like Josh Hutcherson might as well have turned around, looked into the camera, and said the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, this is a surprise tool that'll help us later thing. That's what makes a setup like the children's picture thing so hog shit. It serves very little purpose besides setup, especially when you see all the drawings at Freddy's in the opening. Oh, okay, the pictures will play into the finale. Yeah, the pictures. Okay, yeah, the pictures. I get it, the pictures! If we're going to have an obvious setup like that, at least try to get through it quickly. That's one thing about the Mario movie. I can't believe I'm saying a good thing about the Mario movie, but it had some fucking pep in its step. The child actors... I will refrain from comment on the child actors because I do not want to bully children. But you know who I have no compunctions bullying? YouTubers! Part 3. I clapped when I saw it. I could actively feel my telomere shorten when I heard MatPat say the line. This whole movie is designed to activate the pattern-seeking parts of people's brains who have opinions on which hair color works best on Markiplier. The answer is, when he had the red hair, but it grew out a little, so his roots were showing. Yeah. This is an overall trend in movies. That are like, whoa, I remember that. It's just like the meme. Hey, he was in a movie. Oh, whoa, he said he likes grapes in the original manual. I said his favorite food was grapes. Don't get me wrong, like, yes, I personally get a lot of enjoyment when Sonic does the thing, or when Knuckles does the thing, or, whatever. But I recognize that that isn't the movie being good. That's the movie pandering to me. And I look at shit like this, and it's just like, movie's supposed to stand on its own. Asking a reviewer to do research and get an answer from a rare screen in a 10-year-old game that's set in an entirely different continuity is, it's fucking dumb. Hot take, you shouldn't have to do research when you get home to understand basic plot points of a movie. It should add to the movie without being necessary. But other media should enrich what you're watching. It should not be load-bearing. I said load. But a part of me can't even blame the FNAF fandom entirely for having such a donkey-brained perspective on storytelling. Not when the big bad of the latest game release is entirely unexplained until you've read several books coming soon to your Scholastic book fair. Like, yeah, of course these people think asking film reviewers to research the source material in order to understand the events of the film is a reasonable ask. Overall, this movie just made me sad. If I had not been borrowing my husband's marijuana vape, I would not have made it through this film. Overall, my rating comes out to 1,983 bites out of 1,987 bites. I'd rather rewatch the MatPat All FNAF Theories playlist.